Coming up next on the Filthy Rich Cleaners podcast.
I was in a place where I was ready for a new opportunity that was not, an MLM or a pyramid scheme. This is a legitimate thing I could do that could make me money.
From your first dollar to your first million, welcome to the Filthy Rich Cleaners podcast, presented by ZenMade. Join your host, Stephanie Pipkin, founder of Serene Clean, as she shares proven tips, tricks, and hard-earned lessons. Whether you're just starting out or ready to scale, get ready to discover how to build your own cleaning empire. Let's roll up our sleeves and dive in.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Filthy Rich Cleaners podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie Pipkin, and this first episode is going to be a little history of myself, of my company, Serene Clean, and kind of what my goals are for this podcast to help you, my fellow cleaning business owner. So I hope you are ready and excited to hear some of my backstory, how I have built my business from zero at 22 years old to now I'm 28, and the company is over $1.4 million in revenue. And I live in Savannah, Georgia, and my business runs in Wisconsin. I actually just got back late last night. I had flown up for a week for Christmas time to see my employees, my family, and we had a great Christmas party last Friday for the team. It was fabulous. A ton of fun, a little bit of drinking, some games. It was a delight. I love seeing my team. I have an amazing team, and we'll definitely talk about that more so as we get into the history, as you kind of hear how things develop. So all of that to say, before we get into my history, that owning a cleaning business has changed my life, and I know it can change all of yours, hopefully for the better. There was a lot of challenges, and that's something I really want to share in this podcast, is my challenges, other leaders in the industry's challenges, to hopefully make you feel not so alone, because it's a very lonely road, business ownership, and it's something that only other business owners can relate to oftentimes. So very excited to just share with you guys and make you feel like you have a friend here, which you do in me. So without further ado, let's talk about me. I want to talk about me. I want to talk about mine. A little Toby Keith for you. So I am from rural western Wisconsin. I went to a little high school called Melrose Mindoro. I graduated with 44 kids in my class, including the foreign exchange students. So very rural. And I didn't even grow up in town. I was out in the boonies, in the woods at my parents' house. So super duper small community. And I, out of high school, immediately went to Western Technical College in La Crosse, Wisconsin for an associate's in marketing degree. I knew I just wanted to get an associate's at least right away, and not go into a bunch of student debt. And honestly, I didn't know really what I wanted to do, but I figured, marketing, that just kind of fit to me. I never had any desire to do anything like be a nurse or a lot of like a teacher, all of the things kind of my classmates wanted to do. I had no interest in those things. So I was like, business, like kind of general business, but not really with the intention of opening a business down the line. Just marketing is good and it's generic, right? So backtracking, at around 14 or 15, I started waitressing. That was my first job. And waitressing actually kept me going through, till I was 22, I suppose. 22, because I stopped waitressing about 6 months prior to starting the cleaning business. So I loved waitressing. I was very good at waitressing, and it taught me a ton of customer service skills, and being able to manage a lot of, pots, or what is that saying? Like plates in the air. I had a lot of plates in the air when it came to waitressing, which anybody who has done a restaurant service job totally can relate to. I'm sure anybody listening right now, if you've been a waitress or a bartender, you become incredibly good at fast-paced and moving quickly and problem solving. So never let anybody talk badly about that, because it's such a skill, and I would not have had that without serving and waiting tables. So I, paid my way through college, through, technical school, I suppose, by waitressing. I also did a stint as a teller at a credit union, which I was terrible at, and I hated that job. So that lasted about 6 months, but I just continued waitressing. So I had those two jobs. And then once I graduated from Western TC, I went on to work at my parents' company, which is a manufacturing facility, and they asked me to be their office manager. So for the following 3 years, I both waitressed and I was their office manager. And I learned a lot of the back end of business ownership, which that looks like all of the boring stuff. So the bookkeeping, answering emails, administrative tasks, keeping up on paying the bills, like, the boring stuff, basically, the not exciting things that keeps the day-to-day of a business running. So that combined with my waitressing skills, I think really was a beautiful combination that kind of led to a lot of the early success that Serene Clean had. Even though I was just a kid, or, well, you're only ever as old as you are in this moment. So right now I feel super old because this is the oldest I've ever been. So at that age, I thought I was the most mature adult person that had ever existed. And now I look back at that child and they're like, oh, you sweet summer child. So anywho, I had stopped waitressing because I moved to a town about half an hour away, which was Black River Falls, which is like 15 minutes from where I grew up at my parents' house. And long story long, I wanted to make more money, and there was no good restaurants in Black River Falls to waitress at. So I instead thought about what other things I enjoyed, and I've always liked cleaning. So I was like, I will just clean houses on nights and weekends. I made a flyer and I put it up at my local community center, and lo and behold, nobody called, not a single call. And I'm like, well, this isn't working clearly, because I literally just said, made a poster of myself and was like, I'm trustworthy and reliable. Call me. And it didn't work. So that kind of stumped me. And very serendipitously, I really feel like this was meant to be. I stumbled across a YouTube video, which I have always been a YouTube lover, social media, obviously, being a younger person, although these young kids now are throwing me for a loop. I will tell you what, with all of their slogans and slangs and things like that. I try to stay hip and with it, but I'm already getting old, it feels like. So I saw this YouTube channel, and it's been one I've been following for a while. It's called Clean My Space, and it's from a woman named Melissa Maker, who owns a large cleaning company in Toronto, Canada. And she puts out cleaning content, basically, how to clean your house better, just very much for the homeowner, not necessarily for other cleaning company owners. This is like to learn from a professional cleaner, and like tips and tricks, basically how to maintain a clean house and do it faster, do it more efficiently. And so for me, I've always been a fan of, I guess you could call it like body doubling. So turning on a video of somebody working helps me do work. And that really, really applies for cleaning and doing household tasks. So if I need to clean my house, I like to put on a video of somebody cleaning their house. So if you ever like search up clean with me content, like I eat that stuff up. I find it feels like I'm not alone in my work. Then I'm working alongside somebody. So it works really well for me. So that's what I had always followed Melissa's channel for. Anywho, so she dropped a video at the same time where I had been contemplating cleaning houses. And it was introducing her business course called The Decision Makers, which spoiler alert, she does not do this anymore, so don't go looking for the course. I'm sorry. It was great. Maybe someday I will make a course for you guys and impart my wisdom on it as well. But I will say it was an 8-week course, and it really set me up for success. And some of the foundational skills I'll talk about a little bit later in this episode, it taught me a lot. And though no matter what, you have to jump in feet first into business ownership, these foundational things put me in the right place. And I really think that's why I got so much momentum. And I'll definitely share some of those things that I did right away that helped build that momentum, got sales immediately, et cetera, et cetera. So all of this to say, I bit the bullet. I was like, you know what? I'm going to take it. It was $2,000, I believe, which was a ton of money. I was broke as a joke. But I did not have any debt. So I was in a place where I was ready for a new opportunity, that was not, an MLM or a pyramid scheme. Not that I've ever done that, but that seems to be when you look for that type of thing of supplementary income. A lot of that type of stuff comes up, which not a fan of. So this is a legitimate thing I could do that could make me money. And I never really had the intention of it growing super big. I always thought maybe at the most I'd have a few part-time cleaners just based off of taking Melissa's course. But really it was always I was going to be physically doing the work, maybe with some helpers or employees as we tend to think of them in the beginning, as opposed to like a full-on team. So I took the course, and that started in February of 2019. And that meant that the 8 weeks was up and I was ready to announce my business April 1st, 2019. And that is the day Serene Clean was born, but it was born as Black River Falls Cleaning Services. So, in hindsight, being 2020, do not name your business after your town, unless you are in a big giant city. I was not. Black River Falls is a town of 5,000 people. So naming it that, I seriously had such a small frame of reference of what this thing could be. Never in a million years would I imagine it would even be a fraction of what it was, or what it is today, I should say. So I named it Black River Falls Cleaning Services because I was not creative and it just seemed very obvious to me. So I did that. I built my own website on WordPress, which it looked pretty good. I will say it looked pretty darn good. Again, I do have an associate's in marketing, but a lot of this was just shooting from the hip type of stuff of like, what do I think looks good? So I announced in April of 2019 and things quickly began to grow. I pretty much had to start hiring immediately because I was cleaning nights and weekends for residential clients. And, light bulb moment is people don't like you cleaning their house on nights and weekends. I didn't have a lot of availability around my full-time schedule. I did not have, a lot of flexibility that I could offer to the clients when it came to, they wanted daytime cleaning, not somebody cleaning their house while they're trying to make their kids dinner, right? So I pretty much started hiring right away in June of 2019, I think, is when I hired my first employee. And so I just posted jobs on Facebook, on Indeed, and I didn't have an office, obviously. This was all running out of my 2-bedroom apartment. And so I did interviews at the local coffee shop. And the very first person I offered a job, Alyssa, you know who you are, did not even show up to my apartment to train. She ghosted me, and I remember crying that night and being so upset by it. And I'm so grateful that I did not take that as like a don't keep going sign, like this is a bad idea. And I think especially in the beginning, the smallest little hiccup will derail us because we have no belief in ourselves. We're embarrassed by this whole thing because there's just so much pressure. Like, are you going to fail? And as soon as you start to hit those snags, it's like, oh, I shouldn't do this. And side note, when I told my parents, I had waited until pretty much the last minute. So right before I announced, they heavily encouraged me not to open the business. So good thing I did not listen to them or none of this would exist. And so all of that to say, there will be naysayers and there will be people who good-natured and coming from a good place of wanting to protect you from what they see as inevitable failure and humiliation. They're trying to protect you. Don't listen to them. Okay. If this is your dream and this is your purpose in life, which this is my purpose in my life, to think that could have just never existed because I let somebody talk me out of trying something, it makes me so grateful that at 22, I stood my ground and I just did the thing. Because at the end of the day, what's the worst thing that could happen? You could fail. Right? You could fail and you have to go get another job. But the potential reward is so incredibly worth it. Again, I had absolutely no inkling of what Serene Clean was going to turn into, Black River Falls Cleaning Services at the time. I had no idea. And so if this is you listening and you just started out, please hear my words is just keep going. Just keep going. And you may decide that this is not for you and that you want to go get a more traditional type of work, and that's totally fine. But the hang-ups and setbacks that you are going to experience are universal. I guarantee I have experienced darn near everything that you are going through right now, the struggles that you are having, because there are two struggles that you could be having, employees or customers. Those are the only two things that could happen. I suppose the IRS and insurance and all of that as well. But the big ones you're going to deal with are going to be employees and customers. So you're not alone, and you may feel alone, but just take comfort in the fact that we have all gone through some horrific things. And that's one of the things I want to talk about with guests in the future. Side note, there's going to be a lot of really cool guests on this podcast. And so one of the things I really want to get into is like the horror stories, because I love a good horror story, and it definitely makes you just feel better about the terrible things that employees or customers have done to you to screw you over. So I'll be sharing some of mine for sure in this podcast. So if you haven't subscribed, hit that dang subscribe button. I know it's the first episode, but I'm promising you a lot of juicy stuff. All right. It's going to be very candid. So all of that to say, thank goodness I did not listen to my parents. Thank goodness I persevered and kept going. And despite first person not showing up, second person who actually I hired, Gabby, you also know who you are. Okay. She was, a doozy. That's actually my only 1-star review is from my first employee who actually showed up. That's our only 1-star review. Isn't that crazy? Or I think, one of two over the past 6 years. So anywho, she ended up trying to, I guess, game the system in a really bizarre way. She clocked into her appointment on ZenMaid, the ZenMaid app, because I had ZenMaid from day one, when it was just me, because I knew I wanted to get employees and I knew it would help me manage the schedule in the business and look professional to clients. And it was super affordable, obviously. The bang for the buck was definitely there. And so she was trying to game the system, and she clocked in at the client's house, sat in the driveway for the 4 hours that the appointment was scheduled, and then she clocked out and didn't clean the house at all. Which is just like, clearly she just was ready to be done. But I don't even understand it. So that was my very first employee who showed up. So now I'm, 2 for 2, 0, losing scenario. So those are my first two. So again, I could have just quit right there. And at that point I had paying customers, right? So, the first couple of months I grew steadily. I was getting a ton of residential. Within the first month, commercial started calling. And so Serene Clean and commercial have been like this from day one as well. It's not just a residential story. And we'll definitely in future episodes talk a lot about commercial, but commercial is a huge part of the growth and success of Serene Clean, especially once COVID hit. So I started hiring. People ended up, sticking around. Everybody was very part-time. And but I was having a lot of employee churn. I did not have an office. I ended up getting an office fairly early on within the first 6 months because I got a large commercial account very early on. It was a manufacturing facility. I think we started that in September, and that gave us an instant like $2,000 a month, like $2,000 or $3,000 a month, I believe, like high profit margin account. And we were able to then afford a small office right downtown Black River, which is like a street. And that allowed me to be taken a lot more seriously by customers, by employees, etc. So anyway, we're going along steadily this first year. I ended up hitting, I think, $7,000 a month in revenue. And I remember Melissa actually interviewed me as a success story from the Decision Makers course so that she could use me as kind of a testimonial. And I remember so clearly that feeling I had talking to her, that pride of it. I could have never imagined that it could get any better than that, because I'm like, $7,000 a month. Like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? People are paying me that and I'm making money off of other people's work. Like, it just blew my mind. Little did I know that, less than 5 years down the road from there, I was going to be doing, $130,000 a month. So it really is, it's wild to think about, honestly. And sometimes I need to take a step back and like appreciate it, because it's just been kind of a whirlwind, honestly. And you just kind of, even with success, it's just like, oh, that happened. And I can be very dismissive of it. And so I have a feeling this podcast is going to help me reflect a little bit and take a little bit more pride, because a lot of times I just take it as like, yeah, that just happened. It just happened, as if it didn't have a lot of work. And I look back with rose-colored glasses. And, even just describing this first year to you guys, or this, April 2019 to December 2019, or, beginning of 2020, it was horrendous because I was still working my full-time job. I was managing employees. They were quitting. They were doing shady stuff, poor quality, trying to, get up a good reputation early on. It was so stressful. And I was every single day working late into the night because it was, work full-time job, 8 hours, go clean at night, potentially dealing with employees the whole time. And then also doing, the invoicing, the marketing, all of that. It's you. There's nobody else. And a lot of you listening right now are exactly where I was in that moment. And I know what hell it is. So I feel for you. I know exactly what you're going through because it was horrific. I don't know how I did it. It was total survival mode of just day to day. Couldn't even hardly take care of myself or feed myself. It felt like, just because it was so busy and whirlwind, and the success was good, meaning I was getting clients, but it was like, holy crap, I can't get staff. And then that's kind of always been the overarching theme of Serene Clean, is getting staff and maintaining the staff. That's the hardest part, I think, for all of us cleaning company owners. At least everybody that I talk to is getting good staff and having them stick around, especially when you have nothing to offer, because I started out at paying $12 an hour, right? So all of that to say, I'll kind of zip through from first year done to now, just for in the name of brevity. So March of 2020 rolls around, and as we all know, what happened then, COVID hit. And so I was not, I was just shy of a year old when COVID hit. And so that was a year into business, I should say. The business was a year old, and it was super stressful because nobody knew what to do. We didn't know how serious this thing was going to be, how long it was going to take. That was kind of the worst part, is the not knowing. So we shut down residential, I think, for a month, and that was super stressful because I was like, I don't have hours, but for my staff, what are we going to do? And I actually had an employee at that time. He told everybody how great it would be to everybody to be on unemployment right now, even though I did have work. So that was my first insubordination fire, I guess. It was shocking because, he put it out in the group chat, hey, this is a good time to be unemployed. Hey, Stephanie, will you just lay us off so we can get unemployment? And no, obviously. So I get they're I'll go into all of these stories a lot more as episodes go on, but let me just say I've had the whole runaround from every single angle when it comes to employees and the tomfoolery that they can do sometimes. So anywho, so COVID started after the shutdown. So for us, that lasted, I think, a month. And COVID turned out to be incredibly lucrative for us. And because commercial accounts needed us more than ever, because they were deemed essential businesses, they needed more disinfecting to make their employees feel confident. So several of our accounts we were doing twice a day, 5 days a week. So that kind of exploded a lot of things for us. It had a lot of challenges, obviously, because dealing with cleaners who had been exposed and the quarantine periods and all of that stuff, as well as people. I've even had fraud happening from employees during that time where they were claiming that they had COVID, and said, I went to this clinic and I got the thing, and we'd call the clinic and they'd be like, no, they didn't do it because of the COVID pay that they were trying to get, basically. And so it kind of brought out the worst in a lot of people. However, I do try to look at it from the bright side. It brought out the best in a lot of people too. We were very lucky. I applied to get the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program grant, early on. And I didn't even know it was going to be a grant, but it turned out to be a grant. We didn't have to pay it back. So I was able to cover payroll. I think I got $17,000 for that. So for us, that was, it's a crap ton of money. Well, anybody, it's a lot of money, but for us at that time, it was a lot of money. So I was able to pay everybody, regardless of how many appointments we actually had. But I'm just not a fan of paying people and they not work. So what I did was reach out to every local business in the area that was shut down and every church in the area that was shut down. And I offered for our staff to do deep cleanings for free so that they were ready to go when they were able to open up. So that was one of kind of those initial big marketing ideas. And it was just the right thing to do, of course, of kind of passing on the the good vibes, if you will, because we got that money. So I was like, let's do something good in our community. Everybody is really struggling, and a lot of small businesses did not survive COVID. So to this day, that helped us in a lot of ways, because small town, people talk in both ways, good and bad. So that was really good for our reputation. Side note, when it comes to that type of thing, I had a lot of, ideas in the beginning, that has served us very well from a community standpoint. And it's really shaped my vision for Serene Clean, being that from an early stage, I think 2 months into business, or pretty much as soon as I had employees. So September of 2019 was the very first time we did this, which was an employee chosen local nonprofit organization that we would donate to, meaning the business would donate to. So that started the habit of now 5 years later, we have every single month donated to a local nonprofit, and an employee gets to choose what that nonprofit is going to be. So that's been kind of a habit and a ritual tradition now that has just been a part of Serene Clean, and again has shaped us into the giving and service aspect of the business that is so important to me, and has really just honed what do I want this thing to be. And it's to be a huge impact in employees' lives, and our community's lives, and our clients' lives. And obviously now with my involvement with content creation and educational stuff with ZenMade, impacting others' lives by teaching. So all of that to say, COVID kind of died down, and we were doing really well. And things started to get a little boring and was running well. I had my first 2 office staff kind of start, and they both started as part-time cleaners. So over this kind of year period, they slowly transitioned into part-time office, part-time cleaner, and those are Crystal and April, and they are still with me today. They are 2 of the management team that I have now. Crystal is my HR manager, and April does all our payroll administration, and then she does all of the inventory management as well. And they all obviously do a lot more than that, but those are kind of the titles there. So they're still with me to this day. And I have cleaners who are with me to this day from that time period as well. So I was very lucky with some of the people I got that saw what I was trying to do and stuck with it. So especially when I was not able to pay them very much. So that is definitely a key factor of my success, that I have some very long-term employees who have stuck by my side as things have evolved and grown. And that has a lot to do with just continually rewarding them and making good on my promise of I'm going to reward your loyalty and your hard work, and keep making this workplace a better place for them so that they wouldn't want to leave. So I started, backing off at my parents' business because I just could not maintain. But I think it was a full year to year and a half before I finally left there to focus on Serene Clean. And that was because I did not want to leave until I could replace my full income from there with the cleaning business, both from obviously me physically cleaning, and then me taking money from the cleanings themselves, or from the business, being able to pay myself. Side note, profit first. That is my number one suggestion for how to run your business finances. If you have not read that book or listened to it, go download that after this podcast. It's a great one. We'll listen to any other episodes first, and then go listen to Profit First if you haven't. It's a great money management system for your business so that you are always paying yourself from day one. So anywho, I had the girls start in the office. I was now done at my parents' company. I was there once a week or something as they replaced me. And it was going well. And I kind of got the feeling that we were hitting some capacity limits in Black River Falls because the population is so small. Leads started trickling down a little bit, at least from that area. And I was like, we need to open another location. So the second location we opened was Sparta, and I think that was in 2021, early 2021. And before that, obviously we're Black River Falls Cleaning Services, so we need to go through a name change. So we went through the entire name change process, which was a nightmare, with the government and the state and doing all of that correctly, and the IRS, like I said. So we changed from Black River Falls Cleaning Services to now Serene Clean, which is what we are now. Definitely rolls off the tongue more, gives the impression that we want to, of kind of luxury and the feeling we're trying to give our clients, which is that of serenity and calm and peace in their spaces. So Serene Clean was officially, reborn. And we just kept growing. Adding Sparta really helped because then we could have an office there, have a Google My Business location there. And Sparta is only about half an hour from Black River Falls. So when I say locations, they are all managed from the same central office. Our employees can go to any of them, get supplies from any of them. We just want to have employees who tend to stick to a certain area for obviously paying them travel and convenience. So that kind of opened up our service range a lot. And that was in August of 2021. I got a call to go take a look at our local military base for a cleaning project, except I had no idea what that project was going to be because I didn't watch the news. I was pretty stuck in my day-to-day of managing the business, et cetera. It was all going well. And so what that call was about was 15,000 Afghan refugees were about to be dropped at Fort McCoy, which is 10 minutes from my then house. And we got asked to be one of the local subcontractors to help manage the janitorial side of that project, which was basically cleaning 318 buildings twice a day with 212 of them, if I'm recalling correctly, being barracks that 50 people were living in upstairs and downstairs. And so that started a 6-month-long, 7-day-a-week project that I was at. And it was truly the first and ultimate test of can Serene Clean run without Stephanie in the day-to-day management, because I was pretty much completely absent. My managers had to fend for themselves, and thank goodness we had them. And side note, Crystal went on maternity leave, I believe in December of 21, or was it earlier? When did she have her baby? Crystal, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. I can't remember when Zayden was born. I can't remember what year it was, but she was on maternity leave. It might have been that fall. So I believe she was out during this time. So it was my two managers, if I'm recalling correctly, April and Katie, who really managed everything. And so Serene Clean, the goal for Serene Clean from the normal side of the business was just maintain, keep it going while Stephanie is out at McCoy, making, the business a lot of money. But that was some of the hardest work I've ever done. Again, looking back, I don't know how I managed it. It was literally 10 to 12 hour days, 7 days a week. And it took over 100 janitorial staff a day to take care of those cleanings. So it was just the sheer management. And literally from day one, I was running I was running in between these barracks, cleaning them because we just didn't have enough staff and thousands of people were pouring in every day. And it was such a wild project. And I can do a whole episode on that actual project, but it was crazy. The disease situations were crazy and exposing cleaners to things like tuberculosis and chickenpox, and COVID was the least of our worries, but it was wild. That's all I can say. So that kind of deserves its own, I feel like a little episode on that. But it ended up ending in February of 2022. And that ended up being, I think, just over $1 million in revenue from that one project. So it was I honestly felt almost emotionally hungover after that project of now what? I felt kind of almost a depression, because once you start seeing those numbers and then you go back to what your normal is, because Serene Clean was still doing very, very well. It was a bit of a mind F, if you will. So it was good that it ended though, and I could then just focus on Serene Clean and getting back into that. We did transition some of the staff from Fort McCoy to Serene Clean's normal operations. And Haley, who has been with me now for over, is that 3 years now? She just had her 3-year work anniversary. She started with me at McCoy, and she is a killer residential cleaner and truly a joy to have on the team. So something very good came out of that outside of just the money, of course. And that money definitely introduced a lot of challenges, because once you have a workers' comp audit on that type of payroll and you owe $80,000 that you didn't expect, it's just giant chunks of money flying out the door too. So it was a huge learning opportunity, and I won't go on more about it because that deserves its own episode. And even how I got it, they found me on Google. Just there's so much, guys. And the whole history of Serene Clean is so much, and I definitely can chop it up and talk about certain segments and lessons, because it's hard. That's why I'm kind of all over the place, because it's hard for me to even reflect and not go into all of these side tangents because it's been kind of a wild ride. So anyway, from there, we're like, let's add another location because Sparta was doing well and we were getting a lot of quote requests from the La Crosse and Onalaska area, which is another half an hour away from Sparta. And it's kind of it. La Crosse is right on the border of Minnesota, so it butts up to the Mississippi River. Again, we're very western Wisconsin, and so we were getting a ton of quote requests from that direction, and we're like, we really would like to get a Google My Business location there so we can start getting reviews and showing up better there. And that is a town or area of like 50,000 people with lots of kind of suburbs around it, which again, a lot of you guys are in giant cities, so you're probably still thinking, oh my gosh, that's such a small town. And yeah, you're right. So as a reminder, if I could do it in that city, you can darn well do it in a big city. So there is absolutely hope for all of us. And if it can be done in a super rural area, cities have so much more money available, more people who can afford these types of services. So keep that in mind. There's a lot of competition in those bigger areas, of course. So you have to stand out even more. And obviously, we will talk about standing out to competition in future episodes because I have so many thoughts on that. Anywho, so we opened La Crosse or Onalaska, whatever you want to call it, that location. We started adding cleaners there. Pretty much from there, it's been slowly and steadily growing, kind of focusing on more. This past year especially has been so internally focused on just processes, training, just honing it beautifully, making sure everything is correct before we try to do kind of a big growth push this next year, and focusing even more heavily on commercial. Not that we're not obviously taking on clients right now. That's not what I'm talking about. It's more like we are not paying or attempting to take on any or go get more clients right now. They're just kind of coming because of our Google presence, our branding. At this point, we have hundreds of 5-star reviews that do a bunch of the legwork for us. So we don't have to do a lot of paid advertising. But in 2025, in this new year, we're going to be focusing on getting more clients and actually really trying to get the perfect clients for us and not taking just anybody and just honing what is the ideal client to us and saying no if they are not that, both on the residential and commercial side. And side note, that whole topic will be really interesting to talk about in my next episode. If you, again, haven't subscribe now, because that is going to be with Simone, and she is over in Australia and she has some really great ideas, and we're going to have a bunch of good conversation just on saying no, because I think a lot of us have such a people-pleasing tendency that we just want to help everybody, and not everybody is your customer. And that is a lesson I had to learn the hard way many, many times. And I'll definitely talk about some of those examples with my conversation with her. And that's where my managers have came in and been very helpful, because they are much better at saying no to non-ideal customers than me. Whereas I'm just we'll clean your gutters, we'll paint. I literally was having my cleaners paint apartments, touch up paint for turnover cleanings. What? I'm embarrassed to even say that. But yeah, so I can't answer the phones. I'm not allowed to talk to customers anymore because I will get us into problematic situations. So that'll be really fun to talk about with Simone. So definitely tune in for that episode. It should be already dropped by the time you're watching this. So overall, it's been kind of a whirlwind, and, within 2 years, we had been at 800K. We hit 1 million. I think that third year, obviously we were giant because of that Fort McCoy job. So that kind of artificially inflated the numbers, but now it's just been, slowly and steadily, increasing not just revenue, but profit has been obviously very important. And just workplace stuff and benefits. We've added 1 million benefits this past year, especially, it seems like. And that has been such a revelation for me early on, was just how much pride and purpose I would get from being a great boss. And I've been at workplaces where I have not been treated with respect. I have been basically taken for granted, especially if you are an excellent worker. And so having the most amazing workplace culture and having the best place to work possible for my staff, that's really my biggest focus, and taking care of them and just being psychotic about quality. And they take care of the clients then. And so that's been kind of our secret sauce. And from there, really, it's just when it comes to why you're watching me or how you even heard about this, I reached out earlier this year. Well, you may be watching this in 25. So in 2024, January, I reached out to Amar, the CEO of ZenMade, and said, hey, you guys had me for the Maid Summit talks. If you've never seen my Maid Summit talks, go check out their YouTube. And those did really well, and I really enjoyed them. And I would love to make more educational content because, again, when I think about like purpose and what I enjoy, it's really, really having conversations with other owners and especially newbies. Like if you're within the first couple years or even like less than 10 cleaners, really wherever you are. I mean, I love connecting, but it's so rewarding to me to help people avoid the mistakes that I made over the past 5.5 years. And that's what a lot of this podcast is about and where Filthy Rich Cleaners came from. And you may be wondering about that title. And obviously the initial thought is like money. And of course, I want you guys to make so much money. I want you to make money to do whatever it is that you want to do. And that's how I see money. And that's why that title really spoke to me. It was because money is a tool to obtain your dreams, to get time freedom, to be able to give absolutely stupidly generously. And that is what I love to do. I love to give to my staff. I love to give to my community, make huge donations. If I feel called to give money or to help somebody out, I can do that. And that is one of the most beautiful things about building a successful business is it gives you the leverage to make a bigger impact. And that's really how I want us all to treat and frame our thoughts around money is that one, obviously to take care of you and your family and all of your goals and dreams, but then what money can do for us to help others. And it's okay for you to say, I want to make a lot of money. And I think, when I first started and I was 22, the growth that has come of like, I don't even hardly recognize that girl, because I've had to change so much. The growth that I have had to go through personally and that every single one of you have to go through personally or probably already have gone through personally because of owning a business, it changes you. And I wanted to change us all for the better and not make us cynical, crabby jerks, because that can happen too. So it's very easy to become cynical when people constantly screw you over. And we're going to talk a lot about that too in this podcast of like, how do you maintain that positive attitude and the sheer amount of disappointment we're all going to face because of how challenging this business is. And there's a reason that so many businesses fail. It is not for the faint of heart. It is not for everybody. And most people are going to fail. And I want every single one of you listeners, even if there's just like 12 of you right now, we'll see. You 12 listeners, I want you to never fail. I want you to grow your business to exactly what you want it to be. And for me, that is not a number. I've hit like my income goals a couple of years ago. Now it's just like everything else is icing on the cake of meaning I can live comfortably, do what I want, travel, live where I want to live. That is what that looks like. And so all of our numbers are going to be different, what that looks like. And so I want you to hit that. And then I want you to far, far, far exceed it. And I want us all to be not just rich in money. I want us to be rich in wisdom, which owning a business will definitely give you wisdom if you take the time to learn from the lessons. And that's something I want to talk about a lot is learning from our lessons. And even, going back to, I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, how I set myself up for success from day one of learning from others' lessons. I went and learned from Melissa. I went to YouTube and watched other owners. I went to books and I was constantly listening to business books and success books. I was listening to all sorts of business content and how to run a successful business. And it's not just cleaning industry specific. Obviously, this is for us cleaning company owners, but in general, good business practices are good business practices, especially, service-based businesses. We all kind of have the same things. Like if you can nail it on quality and get people to show up, you're going to be miles ahead of the competition. So it's actually not that, standing out against the terrible, terrible quality services that are out there already and the lack of professionalism in the industry and all of the things. That's what we're going to talk about in this podcast and sprinkle along lots and lots of fun stories that I have experienced as well as the people that I talk to have experienced. And so all of that to say, What are you going to get out of this podcast? It is going to be actionable advice. I want to tell you things like, okay, from the beginning, I have used cleaning checklists. We left them behind at client's house. I had a beautiful website. I wore a polo shirt from day one. I used ZenMaid, a scheduling software from day one that I could show the clients. I invested in softwares like QuickBooks to keep all my bookkeeping straight. I had client guidelines that were signed from day one. I had employee guidelines that were signed from day one. So all of these things, like I had some very good foundational things, and that was because of Melissa's course. And I wish I could, still offer you guys that course, but I want to teach you these similar lessons of like any of those couple things I just mentioned. Those would be the good places to start, of what needs to be done for a foundational good business that can provide a quality service. And then just being really psychotic about proper communication and professional communication. Even things as simple as having a work email, not sending it from stephanie@gmail.com. Like all sorts of those types of things. I want to give you those tips and tools to utilize. And what do I think is worth investing your hard money in? What do I not think is, like, for example, I don't spend a bunch of money on advertisements. One of the first things I did before I announced, and the thing that Melissa suggested, and I cannot tell you how important this was, is I did a bunch of free cleanings. I did 10 free house cleanings to, I guess you could call them influencers in our area, which were like, ritzy stay-at-home moms. And they talked and they gave me a Facebook review in exchange for the free cleaning. And then they told their friends about me. And so when I announced and I opened my business Facebook, which was, I guess, the only form of social media I had at the time for the business, other than, I guess, the website, but that's not really social media. I had 10 5-star reviews from influencers in our area who had used me. And that trajectory meant I immediately started getting leads and I started getting customers. And so those free cleanings taught me so much too about time management, about how to do the cleanings. And side note, I already had a really good knack for cleaning. So for some of you watching who have never been a good cleaner, I would suggest start practicing or taking a course or watching YouTube videos on those types of things first, because at the end of the day, we can put the prettiest shade of lipstick on the pig of poor service. Your business is going to fail. So if your cleaners cannot clean well, if you cannot clean well, there is only so much sales tactics you can do to get around that. So at the end of the day, quality is king, or quality is queen. And that's the number one focus. It should be on providing a quality service and treating people well and having good, strong boundaries. So we're going to talk about all of these things in this podcast. And I'm kind of sick of really vague advice from, I guess, people in various industries when they're trying to do consulting or coaching or teaching or mentoring or whatever. And I tell you my story, and I'm sure, well, maybe some of you are inspired by it or inspired by me or whatever, but I really want to teach you. I don't want to just motivate you. I want to teach you, because motivation feels really good right now while you're listening to something and it gets you all jazzed up. It's like reading a Tony Robbins book, right? It gets you all rah-rah about positive mental attitude and, your power and all of that stuff. But it's well, once you leave that book or that motivational speech, then what? What do you do then? It's going to wear off, because motivation always wears off and we can't rely on that. And that's why I suggest, listening to podcasts, listening to books to keep getting that motivation. I would do it while I was cleaning and just always listening to stuff to keep me focused and learning. But you have to build that resilience muscle so that you don't quit when your first employee ghosts you, or they try to steal time, or, try to sleep with one of your clients, or do inappropriate things at a workplace, or steal gas. I just got a million stories that we're going to tell, of all of the crazy things that have happened, or clients that have just driven you up a wall, or, complain about something that's totally unreasonable or whatever. You need to have that resilience. And so I want to teach you how to go about handling these situations. And we're going to talk a lot about, specific problems that we all face in the cleaning industry, as well as specific problems that may only be for that guest. And I really want to hear that. But I have a feeling that most problems are universal. And as I mentioned before, this is a really lonely path at times. And that's the beauty of, the internet. Sometimes I just wonder at it, of even the ZenMaid Facebook group community, the ZenMade Mastermind. Like I joined that really early on, and I felt less alone because of it, because I could see other people who were on the same path as me, and just in different areas and learn from them. So I love that there's so much free content out there, and that is what taught me how to run this business. Obviously, I had some good instincts, but I was constantly learning. So I applaud you for listening and making it through this rambly episode, because that is the thing, is you need to keep learning. You need to keep growing your mindset, because as soon as you stagnate, things start to die. Your business will start to die if you do not stop growing. And at every single stage of business, and we'll break all of it down over future episodes, I face different problems. And the problems I face today, I could not fathom 5 years ago. I couldn't even imagine, right? Like, we just got a $30,000 bill for a workers' comp audit from a claim from 2020, when I had an employee roll her car in between jobs. And I thought that claim was closed. And I just this is right now, we are paying that bill by the end of 2024. So that's a challenge I don't think I ever could have imagined back then. And that I would have been in tears, right? And so my ability to manage stress and see a problem for what it is, unless I physically am on fire or the building is on fire, it all can be handled, right? Employees quit all the time. Every employee you have is going to leave eventually. Every single one of them. It just is a matter of when. Every single customer is going to give you a problem. You're going to run into crazy things. And it's like, if you cannot wrap your brain around that, and work through those problems, then it's not the right job for you. You need to go find something else where that's other people's problems. But we cannot get the rich rewards of business ownership without the challenges. You don't get to eat the cake without, going and getting all the ingredients and dealing with the nightmare that is. So, I think a lot of gurus will teach you how to get to 100K or whatever, especially, the whole remote business thing. Like, obviously I'm remote now, but I was physically doing the cleanings. And just I want you to feel that this is going to be the real deal for you, and listening to this and learning from the people who are the real deal and have gone through the challenges themselves. That's who you should be learning from, is people who are, still in the thick of it. I'm still running Serene Clean. I'm still incredibly involved in the business. I mean, heck, my weekly operations meetings with my managers tend to be 3 to 4 hours long, where we're literally breaking down every single thing and working through them, to the point of even getting new mop buckets. We just introduced new mop buckets last week, something we should have done a long time ago. It just never even little things like that of improving the process. Side note, I forgot to mention in my history that we did introduce Hannah, who has been a long-term cleaner for me. She has been one of the best. I mean, if I could clone Hannah, I would be a multimillionaire. Well, if I could clone all of them, honestly, I would be a multimillionaire like that, because I could run this country with cleaning businesses if I had them. They're that much of rock stars. But anyway, Hannah is our field development and quality assurance specialist now. And so she's been in that position for only 2 months, I think. And holy crap, holy explicitive crap, what that has done for Serene Clean. So I can't wait to get into all of that as well, of just the development that's happened, the quality that's happened. For example, over the past, I think I've been tracking for 4 years now, our complaints rates. And on average, we have 170 to 180 appointments a week currently, and we have a less than 0.07 0.07 complaint rate. 0.7 complaint rate? Less than 1% for sure. Less than 1% complaint rate over the past 4 years on average, right? So we're talking at most, 2 complaints in a week is a big deal. Most weeks are 0 complaints over, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and thousands of appointments every single month. And that is one of the reasons Serene Clean has done what it's done, because I've been a psycho about quality from day one, and that the customer needs to get what they're paying for, and that having those super high standards has just made everybody level up and also respect what we're trying to do here and the mission we're trying to do. So I know we're coming up onto an hour in this episode, and I'm not trying to make it super duper long, but anyways, I I really hope you subscribe, and I would love, potentially if you feel like you would be a good fit, or even if you have some specific problems that maybe we could help talk through. I think that would be really fun. Side note, I do individual consulting, and I already know several of my consulting clients who are real life cleaning company owners all over the world. And I'm like, oh, I really hope that they would like to be a guest on the show, because I love learning from others. And even talking, I'll be talking to Simone tomorrow. I'm so excited to talk to her, and she's in Australia, and that's so fascinating to me, of the specific challenges that she has, but also the universal challenges that we all face, as well as her story is going to be really inspiring. And you may not resonate with, 22-year-old Stephanie from, Wisconsin, rural Wisconsin, starting her business from zero and growing it to what it is now. You may not resonate with that, but I guarantee you're going to resonate with somebody's story on this podcast. So I urge you to just click on the ones that seem interesting to you, and let us know what you think, obviously, on whatever listening app that you use. Side note, definitely go subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you don't, I do make lots of content, tons of educational content there. That's a little less convoluted and all over the place than this first episode. I promise I'll be more concise in the future. I'm really excited about this, and I'm really looking forward to learning from others and helping you guys learn, and just kind of being your friend in the business. And, as our slogan is, from your first toilet to your first million and beyond. There's a reason I love that so much, is because that's truly what happened to me, and I want to help you achieve that as well. And it's a very difficult journey, but it is so worth it on the other side. And whatever challenges you're going through, I've probably been there, and I want to help you work through it and get through to the other side, because it is very, very sweet. And the things I can do with my life now and with helping others now is truly remarkable. And it's beyond my wildest dreams. And that's what I want for you. I want you to reach beyond your wildest dreams and accomplish them. And it is 100% possible for every single one of us, if we just have the tools and the wherewithal and the guts to apply them, frankly. All right. You got to have some grit. And I know if you're listening to this, you probably have that grit. And I'm excited to hear from you in any way you so choose. So definitely leave comments, guys, down below. Any episodes that you're particularly interested in. Really, we're going to talk about everything. So definitely feel free if you want to hear about a specific thing, or even if you want to describe a challenge that you have, and we can talk about those. I'll be doing solo episodes as well. That'll be a little bit shorter. Every single week, we'll be releasing at least one long form or one short form video, so that you can listen to them, whatever you're doing, cleaning, driving, etc. So that there's a bunch of variety for you. So anyway, as I always say, long story long, I will see you guys in the next episode, and thanks so much for listening. Bye.